transparently so you can see my struggles. With this music I get vulnerable, this mic is like a shovel. Got me digging through my trauma like this body's in this rubble. The destruction of my temple happened to me different levels. Adolescent years for me was difficult, I was a rebel. Never understood the difference with two brothers, I'm the middle one. Couldn't put my finger on it, I just felt the middle one. Suicidal ideations, I was just a little one. Maybe I just wanted some attention from my mama. With no daddy in the picture, started looking for a father. This turned into a mission, prison buses took me farthest from the tree I could have fallen. Left my daughter with no father, exactly what I didn't want. Chances wasn't given one. The system got a hold of me and never let me go, cause the color of my skin.
High Talk Podcast Productions is also our overseeing LLC, and we kind of just absorbed everything. Calvin called me and was like, "Man, I just I got some shit to unpack. I want to talk. I ain't talking to my friends.
Right.
I ain't, so after a lengthy conversation, and we talked about the different types of content that we want to put out to the community. This is raw as fuck. This is uncut. No hats, no monikers, no nicknames, no titles. It's Bilal and Kalvin, and this series is essentially like we just gonna unpack life, man. This is Black Men's Therapy. Welcome to this particular series. Yeah, man, it is what it is. Like this is us. Like literally no hats. My wife's always complaining about me wearing hats. You know what I'm saying?
You do wear hats a lot. Ain't nothing wrong with that though.
Yeah. And man, kick it off. This is Calvin's baby, man. I'm just here to do some therapy too. Like we hold a lot in. There's a lot of stigma behind Black men and therapy and seeking mental health and behavioral health services. And so like on these series, on these episodes, man, we're gonna unpack it a little bit. We're gonna talk about it and unpack some of our own shit right here.
Yes, sir.
Because we're willing to.
Yes, sir. And before we get started, I want to say nice shirt.
Yeah. Blessings on blessings.
Yeah, man. You know how life gets. You get into their everyday groove, and a minute turns into a week, a minute turns into a day in a week. Next thing you know, it's 3 months later. And I do have my little friend group that I talk to, just that I've been busy, they've been busy. I just realized, like, man, I ain't really even chopped it up with no homies or nothing in a while. So I just had to, get over here and see you face to face and just come over here and chop it up. This in itself is therapy for me, man. I like to come over here. I like to get in front of the camera, speak to everybody. So yeah,
Get hooped up, lift some weight.
Yep.
Get beat in some darts.
Yeah. I don't know about the hooped part, but maybe everything else. You know what I'm saying? How's work going for you?
Work is surreal sometimes. You know what I mean?
Surreal.
Yeah, it's like how did I go from being the notorious image that was out there, a lot of haters and rightfully so,
and that still follows you.
But there's a lot of like behind the scenes haters, because when you're like when you're on top of your game in the game, like people is all like, put me on, and then behind closed doors or with the other groups of people, it's like, man, fuck him, he's greedy, he's this, he's blah blah blah, he don't want to look out, all the riffraff, and I never really let it get to me. I knew a lot more about it than people probably thought I did.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it was crazy, and so now it's like after all that, fighting that case, going to the feds, and then and getting out, pursuing the career that I pursued, and doing it in a way where, like my own wife was accusing me of like not having feelings or not caring because I had literally written a plan, talked to you about it on the phone, about
this is true.
About what I wanted to do when I got out, and like I wasn't about to let anything or anyone derail that.
Right.
So, being an entrepreneur, and not only that, being a Black man with a criminal history fresh out, and trying to like immediately be successful and feel successful, you know, there's a lot of like tunnel vision type of mentality that I had to have.
Right.
And it came with a lot of like pushback, you know, because being locked up, talking to a lot of people, you know, I realized a lot of people were that were in my corner anyway, were expecting more of my time, like right when I got out.
Like,
you know,
catch up time. You missed this. You missed
yeah, like
birthdays,
quality. Well, not
yeah.
even that. Just like quality time, like
Right.
more of me. Like, you know, when we had 15-minute conversations, it was always like, man, I can't wait to get out. We can do this and we can chop
Right.
it up and we could have lunch and you know, and then getting out, and I was just like
hit the ground running.
Laser focused. I call it you know, Al Qaeda focus. And the reason why I used to say that is because when them people, well, okay, so it boils down to like it was many years ago, and I think I had put it in a rap bar. I was like, man, I got that Al Qaeda like focus because I can't be stopped, you know, something like that. Because you think about when them people, you know, would, for example, when they got on the planes and crashed those planes, right?
Right.
Think about there isn't an argument with a female, there isn't a hater, there isn't anything that was going to stop that person from A to B. They were so focused on killing themselves, essentially,
right,
that nothing
was going to derail
on the face of this earth could derail that focus. You know what I'm saying? Like a car could blow up when they're in traffic, and they would just drive around it. They weren't even going to slow down and be like curious about, you know, like our freeway sometimes gets packed up, and you get to where it's at, and it's like people just slowing down to look at somebody pulled over. It's not even a car wreck. Right, and you'd be like 15 minutes worth of traffic. And you're like, Ryan,
and it's just someone with their hazards
literally
on.
Somebody got pulled over.
It's crazy.
And the person that got hazards on, even if there's not a cop there, nobody even stopped. They're just looking, right? And so that's what I used to say. I used to be like, man, I need Al Qaeda like focus. I need that type of focus in order to be successful, because I'm coming already with hella things stacked against me. Right? I'm already a prisoner. I'm already black. I already got this violent history that comes up in any circle or scenario. Right. And I have this long history of not working. Right. Because I was in the game and doing different things. And then even when I had businesses that were to me legit, they got tainted because they got wrapped up in the case. Right. You know? And so, you know, a lot of it leading up to why it's surreal now is because I take all of that into consideration. And then today, you know, I work in a setting where I get to go inside of prisons and train out, you know, certified peer counseling for people that are still incarcerated, you know, while being on federal probation myself. It's like, it's surreal.
That's actually crazy.
And it's a livable wage. And honestly, I was just telling my CFO or CEO yesterday that, like, I've never had this type of support where somebody is challenging me to, you know, succeed to the point where it's like, it's scary because I'm not used to failing. You know, one. And also I'm not used to being given an opportunity to really see what I'm made of. When I did have jobs in other fields, like whether it was labor or whatever, like that was it. That was the set thing. I could maybe ask for $1 raise after a year, or like when we worked at the Red Lion and the banquets together, you know, it was union, so we were like in the hierarchy, but really you could only cap out at so much.
That's a good job.
And you know, so being in a place where it's like I'm learning things, it's almost like learning a new language too, because the acronyms they use for things in the office space, that this stuff was never taught to me. So I'm getting emails, and there's times where I got to be like, humble, like, yo, you just sent me this email with like 4 acronyms. Like, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then when they say what it means, it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? And it's like, to them, this is normal. And so there's that in the back of my mind, feeling like embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, one of the first tasks I got, you know, so I'm a program manager, right? And they're like, I think my boss had said something like, I need you to create a PPT by EOW or something.
Stat.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like,
Right.
so in my mind, I'm like, I could, if I were to let pride dictate like my response, I
Right.
probably would have ignored it and tried to
Right.
figure it out and maybe not been able to, because then pride would have not allowed me to ask anyone.
Right.
So I just I'm like, I don't know what PPT means, and I don't know what EO. And they're like, oh, it's a PowerPoint by end of week. I'm like, that makes hella sense.
Yeah.
All right, what's a PowerPoint?
Right. Oh, it was like that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like
you're at a disadvantage.
A definite, because I
Yeah.
spent over half my life in prison, bro, and they don't offer these like classes. And not only that, we're already underprivileged, demographic when it comes to like getting into colleges and getting in and getting these opportunities. That this isn't language that I would know, but being hired as a PM, program manager, right? These things are not only expected, they were like required. Because I remember my boss's response was like, this would have came up in the interview. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure it did. And I said, like, I'm adaptable, I can learn whatever. But then come to find out, like, PowerPoint is very similar to Canva, right? Or using these apps that we use. I got Power Director, iMovie. It's transferable knowledge. And I've been doing all these edits and learning myself on all these different things with our podcast.
So it wasn't completely foreign.
No, it wasn't foreign, but it was just like that particular platform was foreign.
Right.
It's like, okay, you know how to use Zoom, but then you get into working with a new company and they're like, oh, we use Microsoft Teams.
Right.
So it's just like the concept is the same, but now you got to navigate where everything is in Microsoft Teams so that you could be successful in that type of space, especially if you're the presenter.
Right.
So it's like
concept the same, different design.
Yeah.
Inside joke for somebody.
You're taking shots fired. Right. So it's like, and then on top of that, like, when is it all gonna be like psych?
Right. Do you feel like the rug will get pulled up from under you? Is it still in the back of your head?
It's a niggling thought back somewhere. Like,
too good to be true.
Yeah, man. That's why I say surreal, because it's like, man, I was inside of a prison that I used to be inside of.
That is crazy.
And
That's actually pretty crazy.
And I was walking in with a badge and a visitor badge.
People recognize you.
No, three of the 16 like knew who I was from the street life. And then one knew my, I guess, prison reputation.
Right.
So they don't know me personally.
But they knew B.
Or they knew people who did know me, or who had people on the streets who were like, man, I was out here doing this crazy, like, dope shit in the community.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. And then I'm in their prison. And so they're going back to you like, nigga, you know who the trainer was?
Right.
The trainer was black.
They were like, shut up.
Yeah. There's still people in there.
Right.
That weren't a part of the training, that are just in prison in the different units that are like, know who I am.
Right.
Like, man, we signed up for this CPC training, and Bilal was the trainer. And it's like, but also on the positive side of that, that's like, it felt really good to have.
I was just about
like
to ask
an
you
OG cat was like, man, I heard of you, and he was like, not no bad way or nothing. He's like respect to the pivot. He's like, respect to the pivot, man. I came here signing up for a cert to look good. He's like, but seeing you here and hearing what you talking about, he's like, man, I'm trying to come to the field now. He's like, it's different. Before I was trying to impress my girl or my DOSA probation officer by having this cert. Now I'm invested. And this was like day 2 of a 5-day training. So
the whole cloak came off.
Yeah, so I got to watch individuals go from having 0 or even less than expectations about it, other than whatever they were told in the unit about it, to like, oh, this could be me. I could do this. I could live off this, right? And then the other part about that is realizing that it's like, in a lot of ways, I'm like the Black Atlas in that space.
Okay. What do you mean by Black Atlas?
I'm holding the world up.
Okay.
I'm using Herculean strength to hold these big, giant double doors open that normally society keeps closed to people like us. You see what I'm saying? So I'm like, and I got people tickling me and trying to trip me up because if I fall any which way and those doors close, they close on everybody like me.
Are you guys hearing this? That's
you know what I'm saying?
I never thought about it like that.
They close on everybody. But as long as I got them open and as long as I'm successful,
anyone can pass through.
As long as I'm successful, as long as I'm able to do this, you know, the people that wouldn't have even known those doors existed, let alone be able to walk through them, are going to be able to. Eventually, I'll be able to keep them open. Eventually, there won't be the resistance that there is because I've been in spaces and they call me like the term unicorn has been right?
Okay.
And I thought to myself like, oh, that's dope. You know what I mean? I'm the only one, and that's pride talking. But then the empathetic, compassionate side of me is like, wait a minute, why? Where's my herd? Why am I the only one in an 80-person Zoom who meets all these checks all these boxes of criteria in the space? Why am I the only male, black, BIPOC person that's a trainer that's allowed to do what I'm doing, and why even is allowed a part of the equation? Like, why aren't more people?
Why isn't this common? Why isn't this the norm?
And it boils down to like some of the language in the certified peer counseling is agent of change. And in order to be an agent of change, you have to first get in. You have to get into the spaces where we're not prevalent.
Okay.
We don't dominate those spaces,
but you can change that.
Oh, I'm changing.
And you are changing that.
Yeah. But like I said, it's always that. I remember, I don't know if it was you, but in the from prison to peer work interviews. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
At the end of it, there are questions asked to me. Somebody asked me what my greatest fear was. I don't know if it was you or not, but either way, I meant it then when I said it. One of my greatest fears is being framed, and I answer it that way because I know from experience that I could lose a case I'm innocent of.
No, for real.
And the likelihood of that is more than not on the scale of likely to actually happen. Like if somebody were to come and say, he did this, and I want to press charges, and I didn't do it, I would still have my life turned upside down. I would have to post bail. I would have to find a good lawyer. I would have to do all the things, and the possibility would still exist that I could go to prison. That's one of my biggest fears is like when I'm doing all this good and all this right, that something like that doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's interesting. And that is scary, right? Because one bad decision, or like you said, a framing, even if on the backside it comes out that someone was innocent, it'll change, it'll rear end and up what's the word? It'll tear up their whole life in the process. Yeah. It's absolutely true, man. Yeah. Interesting.
You know, coming from where we come from, bro, there's no room for error.
Right.
That we don't have that privilege if we ever had it. But for sure now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? With our history, like we have to be like optimally performing.
Perfect.
Essentially.
Right.
Yeah, we are.
It's kind of like how when Bill Cosby ended up doing all that weird stuff, it was to me at least, it was like, of all people, Bill, the representative for the black community, and he ended up being the weirdo. You know, that really, I almost like took that personal when all that came out about him, because even white people looked up to Bill Cosby, let alone us, right? And he was like our, you know,
yeah, he was like
he was holding both sides.
He was the black man Oprah before Oprah.
Come on, man.
Could have been, you know, he was up there. He was iconic,
and he wasn't framed. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, where do you see your evolution going in the future?
I mean, I try honestly not to look into the future.
Okay.
You know, I try to focus on like watering the seeds that I've already planted, and tending my internal evolution garden in the here and now instead of thinking about, oh, I can't wait till this tree blossoms or this fruit bears. Like I'm just like enjoying the process.
Because if you
Because
water it will.
Yeah, it's
will grow.
inevitable.
Right.
It's gonna grow. Right. Where and how, which way the branches go.
It's not up to you.
It's not.
Right.
It's not up to me at all.
But it will grow.
Yeah. What about you, man? Like you called me.
Yeah, man.
And said you had some shit to unpack to the point where you're like, we can make a series about it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, me, bro. I'm with the positivity. I'm with the movement.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I wear a lot of hats, and so
right.
the opportunity that you're giving me here to just take them literally all off. So I'm not Coach B. I'm not Bianca the rapper. I'm not B Willis. I'm not the peer counselor, the coach. None of that. I'm just it's me and you, bro.
How does it feel to be just Bilal today?
It's different.
Okay.
I got to remember we went through. I spent over half my life in the prison culture where someone calling you your first name is a form of disrespect.
Interesting. Yes.
The exact opposite. You know what I'm saying? Like violent things could happen when. What the fuck you using my government name for, dog?
At the drop of a hat.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could ask go from 0 to 1,000. Like, 0 to getting stabbed.
The whole day room would change.
Yeah, because we know each other from the streets, and I called you Kalvin in front of other people. Hold on, nigga, my name is K-Dog. You ain't say Kalvin with a K, though.
Yeah.
It's disrespect.
No.
Yeah. That's just stupid. So dumb.
Do you think you have too many hats? And there's a second part to that. Have others said to you that you potentially have too many hats?
No, because they all mix.
They all have their own role.
They all overlap.
They coexist.
They all have their lane, but they all hang up on the hook in the same closet. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not too many, but if people really break down their own lives, everybody wears hella hats.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even with like groups of friends, like you might have a group of friends that doesn't even interact with this group of friends because for this group of friends might be from like your past life and like how you talk and kick it and what y'all do isn't the same as like your new work group of friends where you in corporate America now and you understand.
No, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? So that group of friends is like sometimes you might only invite one or two to a barbecue with the other group just to kind of see if it's even, if it's meshable or not. And it's like,
and some people you can't bring around, right? You love them.
Me in the parking lot at Safeway. You know what I mean? We'll chop it up for a few minutes. You can walk around with me. Walk around with me while I shop.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, you know what? At work, I don't know what you just said that made me think about this, but I had a moment of growth at work recently, and it was kind of gradual, right? So I work in a customer service type. A big portion of my job is
you sell stuff people don't need. Subjectively, allegedly,
right? But you have to have it, right?
Yeah, or do you? Mathematically, there's ways where
leave in the comments. do you or do you?
You know you want to say it.
But so when you call up your customer service and things aren't going the way that maybe you think they should, maybe your bill goes up, maybe the service isn't acting right, maybe it's just or whatever. So you call up your customer service, you either get some type of robot or you're not getting the answer you want, and eventually you get frustrated, right? But when we really take a step back from that, it's not the person you're talking to's fault. So, and I say that because in my line of work,
you're the messenger, though. You're the person they're
I,
talking
I
to
am the face of my company in that moment.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah. You're the person representing
Correct.
a solution or non-solution to their problem.
Correct.
So it is your fault through the filter, through their filter.
Correct.
Or it could be your fault.
More often than not, it is.
Saying to them.
Right.
Not that it is literally, but the person calling and they're talking to you, if you can't solve their related issue that your company is supposed to be able to solve, then in their mind, when they hang up, if it hasn't been resolved, it's your fault.
Okay. Fair.
In their mind.
Fair, right? And I felt that way when I make my phone calls to my customer service, right? And so there's been a change in things. So there's been a lot of phone calls coming in about an issue. And I found myself getting frustrated about all the calls about this issue. I found myself getting frustrated to the point where I was taking it home with me, right? And I noticed it was almost changing the way that I interacted with my own family, right? So then I don't know how, at what exact moment it happened, but then I realized that a lot of times when people call, we're not only talking about this issue with my job, but other issues in their lives come up. So then I'm like, in a lot of ways, not like a psychologist, but sometimes people just need talk, right? Sometimes people just need talk. And it completely changed the way that I felt about the issue. And it completely changed the way that I talk to customer service when I have my issues. It almost jaded me, right? It almost jaded me. It was to the point where every time the phone rang, I was kind of like, huh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To now, I don't know how to say it, right? But to now, I almost kind of look forward to taking these calls because I had a switch. I had a switch go off, right?
It's almost like peer support in customer service, because like the core philosophies behind peer support is that lived experience, right? You experience calling customer service, right, and you experience those emotions and those feelings and those things. So now when you can connect with someone calling you as a representative of customer service, you can use an empathetic skill,
right,
to be like, man, I've been there. I know what this is like. You know what? How can I support this person?
right,
Emotionally, how can I support them past the problem and really, kind of create a space to support them in self advocacy, even though the person they're advocating to is you, but you're the representative of the company that is really the one they need to solve the problem or the issue, right? Yeah, I feel like you experienced a little transition and you kind of became a peer in that moment. And then when you view things through that filter, it kind of takes away the resistance.
It does. It takes away the resistance.
It removes the conflict because now you're like genuinely curious about, what other things led to this person's state of mind when they're calling about this, because they might be frustrated by 10 other things and then they're calling you because this is something on their list that they have to take care of. And they're already having a preconceived communication, scenario in their mind about, fuck, I got to call, like how you're looking at the phone, like, oh man, this is going to be, that's how they're feeling when they pick the phone up to call, because they're like, damn, because some people like group these tasks, right?
Right.
So you might be the fourth call. They might have called the power bill, the cable. They might have called all these different things, and then finally they called you, or you're the second call, and their two last calls, the experience was crap.
Right.
So,
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, being able to look at people, I think, changed the way, I operate. Even when it comes to like the stigma of being like a big black man with a violent criminal
Right.
history, right? It's like you don't know. You don't know.
Right.
And because you don't know, me getting upset about it or me taking it personal, no, serves neither one of us.
Serves neither one of us.
So, the goal is to kind of educate,
The goal, yeah. Yeah.
and who's responsible for the education? Like at the end of the day, it's
Who
like
is responsible for the education in that scenario?
you have to decide. Because if you're the more emotionally intelligent, advanced person in the scenario, or you just have more knowledge because of your lived experience, then maybe it's you,
Okay.
right? So, I use the term intellectual malnourishment in place of somebody being ignorant or like people call somebody stupid or you're dumb, right? So, nourishment itself, like when you think of a child that's born,
Okay.
if that child were to die of malnourishment, it's because the parent didn't feed them. So if somebody's intellectually malnourished, it's because the food for thought wasn't given to them about the things that they don't have knowledge over. That is
Okay.
where that term comes from, at least for me, from my perspective, when I started using that term. And it's like, okay, well, I can give you some nourishment. I can give you
Right.
some intellectual nourishment. But if you don't like it, it's like the kid you try to put the applesauce.
Right. They're not going for it.
But you got to find a way because they need the nourishment one way or another.
You have to turn the spoon into a plane.
Or switch
Right.
the nourishment to something different, but it still serves the same purpose.
Right.
Finding out what their learning strategy is or what have you. You know what I'm saying? Because we represent a minority. Okay. And so I feel sometimes, um, that people will automatically look at me through a filter of less than.
Okay.
And that might be how they were raised or, you know what I'm saying, were taught to look at somebody presenting the way that I present. I present as a black man in America, no matter what.
Do you feel that they are wrong for that? Do you feel that that is their fault?
I used to feel like essentially like you're the enemy, and I never questioned it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if somebody put me in that box, it's like, all right, well, fuck you too, man.
Right.
And that was that. And
Right.
there was never no reason for dialogue or curiosity or trying to get to the bottom of what it is. It was just reacting to. It was basically like, all right, I match energy,
Right.
And I hear that a lot now. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I match energy.
I'm matching. I stand on business.
Yeah, whatever.
Match on-
But
yeah.
but I am in a place now where like I don't match energy. I just bring mine. That's it. Yeah, I don't match energy. So if you're on some hatred shit and this and that, you're not gonna pull my puppet strings and have me doing different things because your energy is not going to be the authority over my energy. You're not going to
dictate what I'm feeling.
Yeah, you're not going to dictate what I'm feeling, and I'm not going to own any responsibility for how you're feeling, and I'm also not going to give you responsibility for how I'm feeling or moving or thinking. It is, and I remember, and this was funny, right? So I'm in prison.
Okay.
And I'm in the day room, and there's a bunch of different races and cultures in this day room. There's like 5 TVs, and there's like each TV represents
this group, that group.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I wasn't hip. I was locked up during COVID. I was locked up during the, all of the madness that was happening around, the dude who got choked to death by the police officer. Right. And then the Black Lives Matter movement. Right. So I remember somebody had said something or something was on one of the TVs and it was talking about Black Lives Matter. And without thinking, I was like, all lives matter, dog. Bro, the whole day room was like,
right.
and I'm like,
right.
what? You know what I'm saying? And it didn't hit me until I got into this field, and somebody said like to say all lives matter was equivalent to a racial slur against black people.
Whoa,
and I'm like, really?
whoa.
Because what they were saying was basically how it was explained to me was that when people are saying like Black Lives Matter, right?
Right.
That they're standing on like that whole movement around what was his name, George Floyd,
Yep.
right?
And, I wasn't sure if you didn't want to say his name. That's why
But you know, I mean, it's history. It's our American history. That's what happened. It is what it is, right? So during that process, like mind you, I wasn't in society for none of it. It was all news clippets and you know, and so the way that was explained to me was like, oh, if someone says Black Lives Matter, the rebuttal or the disrespect, the opposition to that was to say all lives matter. So when I said that in the day room, I had niggas looking at me like, "What's up with this dude?" But I didn't know that,
right?
Because all these things happen. Like people come up with acronyms and cultural phrases for things, and it's like not everybody gets the memo right away.
Right.
Like BIPOC.
Yeah, you had to explain that one to me. I didn't know what you were talking about.
And I got to explain it to a lot of black people.
I didn't know what you were talking about.
If I wasn't in the field I'm in, I still wouldn't know what it means. But there's like BIPOC initiatives and BIPOC legislation and BIPOC grants. But it's like, I had no idea I was BIPOC until somebody else told me who wasn't BIPOC. And BIPOC, for those of you that don't know, is the acronym they are now using for Black Indigenous people of color. All of us. I'll leave it at that, right? I'm not trying to get canceled, but you know what I'm saying. Like, by whose authority? Is always my question.
Okay.
You know, who decided that we are now BIPOC and that our individual cultures? Because from my understanding, BIPOC literally includes Black, indigenous people of color. And my question is it Black, indigenous, or is it Black indigenous, people of color? Or is it Black, indigenous, people of color? Which is everybody that's not white.
That's a good question.
Why? I don't know the answer to that, but it's like, these are the things that just like ruminate in my mind because I'm in this space, and it's like half the time someone, like I was in a Zoom meeting or somewhere, and I was sharing my passion, and then in the comments somebody had said, yeah, because BIPOC men are really needed in this space. And my initial response was like, don't call me BIPOC. Like I didn't give you permission. Like I don't identify as that. I didn't even know what it was. So I don't even feel like I should identify as that because I wasn't in the conversation when it was made up.
When it was created, right.
It was created. And the fact that I had to ask somebody who wasn't BIPOC what BIPOC meant, it hit me in a way.
Okay.
I felt a certain type of way about it. And then we were talking tonight.
You like, said it.
Yeah, you like, what? You keep saying, you know, what is that?
BIPOC. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's us.
Right.
Me and you are BIPOC.
So when someone fills out an application coming in the near future is going to have white or Caucasian, Native American, BIPOC, and you check BIPOC, right?
Native American, I mean...
I guess Native American would fall in BIPOC.
Yeah, it's 2 sections now. White or BIPOC, if you think about it.
Right. Huh.
I'm just
saying. What's up with all these groups and stuff now? All these groups and labels. It seems like society has just put everything into a freaking... And then if anyone gives that group any pushback or resistance, then they're in jeopardy of being canceled.
Yeah,
a lot's changing, man. A lot's changing. We won't got to get into all that. That's for another day. But
yeah, cancel culture. Yeah, that's a different topic.
That's a whole
different episode. Because again, like a lot of these things, you know, I got locked up in 2019.
Okay,
and then I got out pretty much where COVID was almost done.
Yep.
So a lot of those things that happen, the Black Lives Matter, the cancel culture, all these different things happen while I was isolated in a box. So I came home, I felt like, what was the dude? Encino Man. Remember that old movie when the dude was frozen?
It's been so long.
Yeah,
I know.
but it was like
I vaguely remember it.
He was basically like a frozen dude, and they unfroze him obviously like hundreds of years later, or whatever. So he's like all this shit is new and different. You know what I mean? Like a caveman type shit.
Right.
And it's kind of like that, bro. Like just in that 4-year period that I was gone, like so much has changed with societal norms.
Right.
It's like I have to learn new words and not just street lingo, but it's like corporate America lingo has changed, professional lingo, like, you know, what's acceptable with social media. Like,
right.
You can't just go on social media and say how you feel.
Which I think is wrong. Which I think is wrong. I don't agree with. I feel that anyone should be able to say whatever they want. Right. Again, we don't have to go too deep into that today, but that's a good topic we can talk about on a future episode. The fact that we can't freely speak our mind anymore, and that bothers me.
How are you? And you don't have to say one way or the other, but I'm just curious. Where do you stand on like American politics?
Glad you asked. I just recently started following politics because of what I'm seeing. Right. So if it was Trump or Biden walked in here right now, I would recognize them. Outside of those two, I could bump into one of these people and wouldn't know the difference, right?
Yeah.
I just recently started getting into it because it's affecting me at the gas station, at the grocery store. So for the first time ever, I watched the debate. I don't even know the red pill, blue pill. I don't even know how to define that. I gotta have
me neither.
Someone,
like I said,
tell me.
A lot of it's I've been locked up my whole life, so like politics it never affected me because since before I was 18, I've been incarcerated, so I haven't had a right to vote ever in my adult life.
Never voted either.
So like, if I can't vote, like, why invest my energy in trying to figure that shit out, right? But then it's like, do you ever feel like in certain circles? Because I know historically, blacks were Democrats, and then non-black people, I guess, are Republican, and that's just how it's been,
right.
You know, shown to me. And then now, like with all that's happening, I keep seeing all this social media stuff about how a whole bunch of black votes are moving towards Trump, and even more so now because he got shot and has felonies. And it's like, is that really like that's our standard now for voting? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, and like I said, I'm catching this stuff vicariously, so I don't know in depth the policies. I wouldn't identify as any Republican, Democrat thing personally. I'm just indifferent when it comes to those categories of, was it like three? Is it?
There's a
Democrat, Republican, and
independent,
right? So I'm neither three of those. I don't. It's not that I don't care, but I just haven't allocated
enough time to understand it
into even having a relevant opinion one way or the other. I'm just catching vicarious pieces of information from like, and a lot of times it's through comedy. Like there's some shit dude on the Daily Show said, you know, I'm seeing little memes or whatever, you know, dudes like, you know, then they had this other dude going around asking people like if black people are voting for Trump or not, or are they sticking with the Democratic Party? And it's like, I don't know. Of all of it, the obvious thing to me is like, which one's the lesser of two misfits?
Okay.
Because it seems like a game show. To me, it seems like a game show. It doesn't feel serious.
Okay.
It doesn't feel serious. It doesn't feel like when I watch, like I did watch the debate on YouTube.
Yep.
bro. Like literally at the end, they was talking about I have a better golf shot than you without a handicap. Like how do two presidents debate about how they're going to run the country turn into who's better at golf? You know,
Biden
and
said he had
I literally
a
watched.
6 handicap.
I don't even know what that means, but the point is,
Right.
how is that even relevant in a presidential debate? That's and just from stuff like that, how there's so many memes around, you know, Joe Biden's uh, capacity to even
Right.
show up, right? And then there's all the stuff behind
Right.
Trump being a criminal and being crooked and being this and that, and it's just like, bro, who are we in this scenario?
I almost feel like our votes don't even matter anyway, right? I just want what's right. I'm like you. I've never voted. I don't really know the categories, but I know that I do want there to be free speech. I know that I do feel like we're slowly getting our rights taken away. I know that I do want to start paying attention to what's going on so I can protect my family because I feel like things are going to change. You know what I mean? Uh, I just hope that shit doesn't hit the fan.
I feel like it already
That's what I'm
did
worried
in
about.
a lot of ways. Because okay, in 2019 when they raided me, I was living in a like what they call a tumbler, I guess, 3 bedroom, um, almost 2 car garage,
They call it a
big
tunnel?
something big fenced in backyard. Um, you know, you remember it was
No,
nice,
no,
right?
I know exactly what I'm talking
And the backyard, the fence was right on a park in a neighborhood,
about. Yeah.
nice neighborhood,
We
and
used to hop the fence and go or
and
shoot
go
the
hoop.
basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That was 1250, right? So back when I was in the game, I was able to give up 5 bands and be good for 4 months of rent.
Come on.
Okay. Now I go to the feds, I get out 4 years later. And that, to me, that's a short period of time.
In the
And
grand scheme of things.
yeah, right. And so from 1250, 3 bedroom, you know, I come home, I move in, well, not move in, but you know, I come home and I get to my wife and my kids, and it's a 3 bedroom, 2 story backyard.
They want
Uh,
$10,000.
yeah, but 2,200,
It's crazy,
right?
man.
How did 4 years double the average rent? And you talk about shit hitting the fan, like, but minimum wage didn't double.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the problems that we had, like the financial instability, it didn't get better while everything is increased
Right.
exponentially. And it's like, and again, like here we are, you know, with criminal histories, you know, trying to find jobs, hoping nothing like comes up later from the past that they might have overlooked. And look
Right.
at
Right.
walking
That's
up,
a
it's like
real fear
actually,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
actually, HR, we looked at some things, we
Right.
overlooked, and we gotta let you go. Like, you know, I don't have that fear because I
And
do,
the whole
I
time
do
you're in
know.
a year lease. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. You know,
It's real, man.
and that was a fear. I wouldn't say a fear, but a thought entered my
Okay.
mind when me and my wife signed this lease into this space. Was like, man, what if anything happened with either of our jobs right now, and we just increased our rent a bunch, right? And it's like, what happens because unemployment is shit, minimum wage is crap. Like once you get to a certain place, it's like I'm lucky
Right.
where I work. Granted, I put in a lot of hard work, but I also felt like I had to. The way that I hit the ground running, the things that I do, I felt like, you know, comparatively with somebody my same age that doesn't represent like me, um, I have to have a plethora
Right.
more of qualifications than this person in order to get the same job and maybe the same pay and maybe the same opportunities in future growth within that same organization.
So when you say this person, is this person a non-felon or is this person white?
Both.
Okay.
But felon is also a minority. It's getting a little bit less. So what I've found when it comes to felonies now, the biggest barrier is not necessarily the felony as much as it is how recently you caught the felony or got out from serving time for the felony. So there's really no excuse for felons to not have work, right?
You beat me to it. I was
it's
just
so
about
much.
to say that.
This is the time to be a felon, if there was a time to be a felon in the workplace. However, the HRs in a lot of these spaces will deny based on the fact that how recent was that felon, right? So, like, even in my
24 months, 36 months.
yeah, even in my case, when I got out and I was trying to get these jobs, I'm doing multiple interviews and the shit was going well, and then they were like, "Oh, well, HR is tripping because you got sentenced in 21." Even though the start of my case, the actual action of the criminal offense was 2016. I was on bail 3 years, and then I had COVID extended court dates for almost 2 years.
Nothing to do with
it
you.
was, so yeah, it was 5 years before I got sentenced, and then I did 4 years. You know what I'm saying? So then it's like they're only looking at that one thing, or oh, you just got out yesterday. Like, I'm not giving you a job, right? As if getting out is a new felony itself. Like, they're treating getting out as the felony, rather than but I did this thing so long ago. What about all the work I did while I was in prison, certificate wise, cognitive behavioral changes, programming, all these different things? None of that matters.
Do you think companies or big corporate America views prison certificates as valid?
Do I think so?
Or do you think they view them as fake news?
I wouldn't say fake news. I just think they don't
hold the same weight as the same.
I just don't even think. I think it's just in a different, unhad conversation. I just don't see people, and in my line of work, and I've had these conversations. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see it as like, hey, I did dynamic dads and inside outside dads, and hey, I did anger management and MRT and all these things. Like, I don't even think it comes up.
It's never come up for me.
But you see what I'm saying? So it's like, but the worst part about that is it doesn't even come up as valid with your probation. So if your judgment and sentence says you have to do all these things, a lot of times DOC or probation isn't even recognizing the certs you got while you're there. Even if they are part of what they said you had to do, they're like,
and you got to do them again.
Out here.
You got to do it again. MRT again. Yeah.
So it's like, how, knowing that, it's no wonder there isn't as much buy-in and engagement inside a prison on these prison-based programs and certificates, because they don't mean shit.
Right. Do you think there's a way to change that?
I'm working on
it. Right.
Yeah. So I do believe there's a way to change that. Yeah, I'm definitely these conversations I'm bringing to every single space where they give me a voice, and some spaces where they don't. I put it in the chat. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It is what it is. Like, I'm a genuine, agent for change, and I want those changes to take place sooner than later. So, it is what it is. Man, we've been chopping it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is good. I always like this. I always say this. This is like a therapy for me. Just this, to sit here with you and just to talk about whatever comes up next. I genuinely enjoy it. Yeah, I really do, man.
Yeah, man. Before we, I guess, sign out of this one, I say next episode, and we could just record another one.
Yeah, if you want.
Because I don't really want to go longer than an hour. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think there's some topics that we could really touch on, like home, family life.
Yeah,
stuff like
that. I would love to.
I know you had some kind of us versus them, men versus female relationship stuff. You had one.
Do you want to get into it?
I remember. So we can do that.
Let's do it.
Let's take a break.
Yeah, let's do it.